This is what I would like to stress to everybody at home when they see these reports coming out from U.S. officials stating that this would be a limited operation. I don't have any understanding of how that could be a limited operation, an invasion into southern Lebanon. I've been shown, and we've been hearing from the IDF for months that they have a target list. They're calling it their target bank in southern Lebanon that numbers in the hundreds of locations that are potentially fortified that they have not been able to strike from the air, or if they have struck them from the air, that Hezbollah still has access points into these areas.
Zach, so the reports of that, we have tanks, Israeli tanks massing on the border, Israeli operations going on the Lebanese side of the border. The expectation is very, very high of an invasion, and very, very soon.
I believe so. We were in the same location 24 hours ago, and the armored division that is now amassing near this border is new. That's a new overnight development. That's about 100 tanks that have come into this area within the last 24 hours. As we've been monitoring, I'm looking over my shoulder, two massive plumes of smoke coming up. We've been hearing outgoing artillery in this location in Kiryat Shmona, right over the border here for the last 2 hours. Now, the tanks are still staged about 5 miles to my south. If you're looking at a map of 2006, where Israel had main invasion points into southern Lebanon, well, a lot of this border is mountainous, rocky terrain. Some of these areas are a bit difficult to be able to get up some of the onto elevation with some of these tanks. They primarily went through this city, Kiryat Shmona, through the valley and into southern Lebanon, through the valley, and then spread out that way. With I believe that's the what we're seeing here now of this armored division staging about 6 miles to my south in the valley. We're getting reports from locals that live inside the evacuation zone that there are additional tanks and ground forces that are massing in the mountainous terrain near those villages there. But those checkpoints are now closed. They're turning the people that don't live there, can't show proof of residence, turning all those people away at new checkpoints that were not there yesterday.
Is there any way to make any kind of informed assessment of what would happen, Zach, as and when the Israeli ground forces cross the border? The last time there was an invasion of Lebanon, the Hezbollah fought the Israeli military to something of a standstill. What might be the aim of the invasion? If it's to clear the way so that Israelis could move back into those northern areas on the Israeli side of the border, wouldn't that be a long operation and a very intense one?
And this is what I would like to stress to everybody at home when they see these reports coming out from U.S. officials stating that this would be a limited operation. I don't have any understanding of how that could be a limited operation, an invasion into southern Lebanon. I've been shown, and we've been hearing from the IDF for months that they have a target list. They're calling it their target bank in southern Lebanon that numbers in the hundreds of locations that are potentially fortified that they have not been able to strike from the air, or if they have struck them from the air, that Hezbollah still has access points into these areas. Again, we are circling back to the tunnels storyline. There is an extensive tunnel network inside southern Lebanon. But it's anybody's guess at this point, from the public's standpoint, of how vast and intricate that tunnel network is compared to Gaza's, of course. But that would, like you mentioned, certainly be at the top of the list. Any potential access points into Israeli territory, those tunnels attempting to be identified. Some of these are actually natural forming caves as well that are being utilized by Hezbollah. There's quite an expansive network of that found in southern Lebanon as well. But again, I'm shown a target list that numbers in the hundreds south of the Litani River of locations that if Israeli ground forces go into, that's what they're going to try and hit. And that's what they're going to be surrounded by, and potentially Hezbollah ground forces that number in the thousands, potentially into the tens of thousands, even with their command structure in disarray right now.
Yeah, it is. It's not just the invasion, it is the exit strategy we watch very closely. And as for Prime Minister Netanyahu's political motives, it's always part of the conversation. And I see Zach reporting now that Netanyahu's party is gaining in popularity in this crisis, though at the expense of coalition partners rather than the opposition.
Yeah, that's right. We've gotten to a point now with an additional minister, Gideon Saar, joining overnight, That pushes the number of ministers, I believe, to 68 in Netanyahu's coalition government, which was for the last, I believe, 7, 8 months. We have been in a period where one minister could leave Netanyahu's coalition and force the government's collapse. And the main names that came up and the ones that continued to threaten to leave that government were the far right ministers, Ben Gvir and Benny Smotrich, the two ultra-nationalist settler ministers who had been threatening this hardline stance if they weren't allowed to resettle Gaza, that they would leave the government. Well, now with Gideon Saar joining this current Netanyahu coalition, that threat goes away in the immediate. The two of them could leave the government, and it no longer would lead to an imminent collapse. The timing here is really interesting because just 10 days ago, we were all talking about public infighting with the prime minister and the defense minister, the potential that the prime minister was going to fire defense minister Gallant and replace him with Gideon Saar. Instead, Gideon Saar will not become the new defense minister, but he is joining the coalition and preventing this government from potential collapse.
All right, Zach, as always, great to get your analysis and your perspective. Zach Anders there, reporting from Kiryat Shimona in northern Israel.
There are no words to describe what I have seen today at the airport during my flight. As you can see, I feel I'm in pain. My country's in pain, and I haven't felt this way before. This is something. It's not something acceptable as a humanity, and a lot of people are dying, and social media is not enough. This must stop. I was heading to the airport, and you can see also this building that Israel bombed last night. A lot of people lost their homes. I'm afraid what's going to happen, or to lose someone who I love. There's a lot of people dying, a lot of kids. We've lived in 2006, the same case, and now it's worse, it's times 10.